Hi, my name is Ingrid and I'm an artist and an art teacher. I use drawing in every type of art that I make, including the painting that's behind me. And I'd like to help you gain your skills in drawing. So to begin with, we're going to talk about line in drawing through the elements of art and design. Line is one of the basic, most important elements in all of drawing. So I've put together a short little PowerPoint to show you, just to introduce you to some of the line techniques we're going to be doing and what this video might be about. What is drawing? Drawing basically is a series of marks and lines. Some are connected and linked together, while some are not. What does it take to be able to draw, and how can you be successful in this class? Be brave and realize you're not the only one who feels a bit nervous about learning to draw. You might not have drawn since you were very young. Look at things, really look at things, and begin to see line, shape, textures, shadows on a deeper level. Practice. Only by drawing stuff will your skills improve. It does not have to be major drawings. It can be little daily drawings. Just like anything else that you participate in, any sports or instruments, any other activities, you get better because you practice. It's the same thing with drawing. The skill of drawing is built on learning a new skill and slowly adding to your understanding step by step. So that's why we're starting with the skill of line, learning about looking at lines and how lines start drawings. Make sure you use the right materials. Drawing pencils, charcoal, pastels, colored pencils, even magic markers and Sharpies will work. Look at drawings from famous artists or work that inspires you. By looking at more work, the better your skills will get. Learning to draw takes time, like I said before. We're going to learn to draw with line first. Line is one of the elements of art and design. A drawing can be a way to explore a concept, or it can be a fully developed work of art. And as you'll see here, the drawing on the right is a very beginning level of drawing as far as a concept that's been begun. This artist has drawn the outline of the shapes that they want to use, and then later they'll start to fully develop this drawing. While the drawing on the left started the same way as the one on the right. It started with just an outline, and you can see here that the artist has added value shading, which we'll learn as well. Can you really make a drawing with just lines and marks? Absolutely. The first one here you'll see is on the left is a drawing by Vincent van Gogh. You'll notice the makeup of most of that drawing is just lines and marks, and I know you all can make lines and marks and dots. The drawing on the right with a woman running on the road, it's a really cool drawing made up of just words. What do I learn after I learn about line? Well, value is after I learn about line. Value is what we call value shading. It's the dark and the light areas of a form. So for instance, with line, you draw a circle. With value, you make that circle into a form, a fully formed ball. After that, we could talk about texture. Texture is how something feels. You can learn how to make things feel rough or smooth or furry, like the elephant skin, the wood over here on this barn. Learning to draw texture helps you express how things feel. After texture, there's space, positive and negative space, and composition, how to arrange things. So space is not only are you drawing or thinking about the object you're drawing, but you're also going to be learning to look around the object and see what else is there that could be included in your drawing to make your drawing more fully unified. Portraiture drawing would be next. We've got some beautiful portraits here that students of mine learn have first of line, and then value, and then texture. It all comes together to make a portrait or self-portrait. Next, you could be learning about perspective and how buildings and different space areas are made. Here you'll see some examples of drawings of perspective drawings. And finally, there's 3D illusion drawings, which are really quite fun to do too, like the water drops on this piece of paper. They all start with line though. So line, I'll go back to that, is the most important. And that's where we're going to start this program today. And let's get started. So now I'd like to show you a video about lines and all sorts of lines. Let me share my screen again. Here we go.
Path of a moving point. It is a starting place for most art creations. It is the most basic and fundamental visual element. So what do we know about lines? There is an endless number of lines that you see and use in art. But technically speaking, there are only two types: straight lines and curved lines. The rest of them are combinations or variations of these two types. When it comes to line styles, you can group them into 4 style categories. First, a solid or continuous line. Second, all kinds of interrupted or broken lines. Dashed lines, dotted lines, footprints, or time marks, they all would fit into that category. Next, implied lines are the lines you assume. These lines are not actually drawn, but you can see them as a border between other elements, or a sudden change in their characteristics. A good example would be horizon line. It's not there, but you see it. And finally, psychological lines are the lines that are not physically there. You cannot see them. They are generated by our minds based on other elements. If used properly, they guide viewers' eyes and attention to where an artist wants them. It is a very powerful tool that is used in compositions and graphic design. So here are the 4 styles again: solid, interrupted, implied, and psychological. We use line in all art creations at some point or in some degree. Here are just a few examples. Line is used for sketching, gesture, and contour drawing. You can create an image with just one line or make it complex and detailed. Line can be used as the only element in an artwork. Here are some examples: a line drawing by Pablo Picasso and sketches by Edgar Degas. We use lines to define objects in space, to outline shapes, or sketch thumbnails and plan a composition layout before painting. All shading techniques are based on the use of lines. Whether straight strokes are used or curved ones, parallel marks or cross-hatching, they are all using some kind of line drawing. You can use longer strokes for quick shading, or a variation of strokes to show depth, tonal values, and texture. In addition to shading techniques, line as an element can be used alone to add depth in an artwork. Manipulating line, bending it, changing its thickness, you can achieve an illusion of 3-dimensional objects in space. See how lines wrap around the folds to support the form, adding value and space at the same time. And how they follow every facial detail in this portrait of Dürer. Etchings, engravings, and other print media would be a good example of this technique. Line is your greatest support tool. Lines assist you in drawing using the grid method, constructing forms and objects by using temporary structure lines, working with linear perspective. Grid method is a traditional way to transfer or scale images. As you draw, you go through a process of using temporary lines, layout marks, building forms with axis lines for symmetrical shapes and surfaces, invisible or behind structural lines, and other supporting elements. Receding lines are the key to building a linear perspective. You cannot draw a realistic picture without using them. Of course, we use line to decorate. From simple and elegant patterns to heavily ornate and complex designs. Graphic designers use line in their work to decorate and at the same time lead the eye, emphasize, organize, and add structure to the content. Abstract designs and drawings is another common use of line element. Op art or optical illusions is a good example. You can probably come up with more line uses. Think about it. Believe it or not, but lines have feelings. By changing the way you draw or shade, you can change the meaning and the message of your artwork. There are certain ways our brain processes and interprets what we see. Look for yourself. Horizontal lines generally look quiet and calm. They suggest some space and distance in an artwork. Vertical lines, on the other hand, give an impression of height and balance, support and strength. Curved lines are special. They are very comforting comparing to straight lines. They're elegant and graceful. So if you want to add some ease to your work, use more curves. Here is a line that creates all kinds of energy. Zigzags can suggest an anxiety and confusion or an excitement and energy. It's all in the context. Parallel lines, especially if they're angled, give an impression of speed and movement. Slanted lines are also full of energy. They support movement and action in an artwork. They can also emphasize and lead viewer's eye to a specific spot in a picture. Overall, the quality and characteristics of lines that you use contribute to the mood of your artwork. Use lines meaningfully and responsibly.
I bet you didn't know there are so many ways to use lines and so many different kinds of lines. So next we're going to look at what materials that you are going to need. And so let's talk about some materials that you might need to start with drawing. First of all, you're going to need some pencils. So what I've got here is a series of pencils. And if you don't have all these type of pencils, that's perfectly acceptable too. Frequently, I use just a regular school pencil. Now, you'll notice that the pencils I have and your school pencil, you might know already that your school pencil is called a number 2. Okay, that's a pretty average medium pencil that works really well with pretty much any type of drawing. But drawing pencils go a lot deeper than that. And I have a couple sets here that I'm going to show you. This is just a 12 set. And if you look at the back, it shows you the different tones that your pencils will get, okay? So you'll see that anything with an H, 4H, 2H, H, and F, these are very, very light. And then as we go to something called HB, B, 2B, there's your school pencil, and down, the numbers go up, it becomes darker. So I keep with me a series of these pencils. I usually don't use too many Fs. So for instance, here is an F pencil, and it would have a very light line, okay? We'll work our way down. Here is a 6H. Let's see, yeah, let's go to H. Also really light. 6H is probably a little bit darker. But all the H's you're going to find are towards the dark or towards the light. Here's a 4H, fine and light. So they would be good for, here's a 2H, for doing really soft work, okay? If you want something that's really very, very light, you would use anything that has an H with it, okay? When we talk about value, I'll talk more about why it's so important to have a variety of pencils. Now the medium, you've got your H's and then you have your B's. The medium is an HB, okay? So that starts going in a different direction, a little bit darker. Here's a 2B. 4B. go to a 6B. See what's happening here? Here's an 8B. This one's not very, it's much darker, okay? Now, in addition to your pencils, the pencils also come in different thicknesses too. So if you like a thin pencil to hold, that's fine. They also come in a little bit thicker pencil too, which some people really like the big ones. It's called a jumbo pencil. So this is a 2B. I find that I usually work between 2B and 6B. Other things you can draw with, charcoal, drawing charcoal. Some of it's soft, some of it's hard, but it also gives you some, you can smear it with your fingers, make some really neat quick lines. You can work really fast. It tends to be messy, but it's a lot of fun to work with. So charcoal, this is called vine charcoal, and it's kind of thin. Some charcoal comes really thick, and I like this vine charcoal, and it's soft. It's a soft vine charcoal. Drawing pens. This is one pen, one brand of pen, and then you'll see, again, it also has numbers on it and letters of how thick or thin they are. So you can get really nice, fine. If you're going to be doing some cross hatching, pens are really fun to work with. Here's another one, another drawing pen. But simply your everyday pen that you use every day will work too. Sharpies work great for drawing. Love to draw with Sharpies. So in this one, your first assignment, you're going to have to draw thick lines and thin lines. So Sharpies will really help you fill in some areas that you may want to have dark, or some areas you want to have light. The Sharpies work really well, or just a thick magic marker of some type. Okay. And then I also have some of these. These are markers, and they have the grayscale. So some of them, they have two different tips. One is like a fine brush tip, and the other is a chisel tip that you can make lines with. So these are all fun to draw with, okay? So pencils are really, really important. Erasers, any type of eraser will work. This is called a soft gummy eraser, and you can knead it, and then you find a new area to erase your work, or you can simply use the bottom of a pencil. It doesn't really matter as far as your erasers. So I would also suggest that many of you have sketchbooks. I have lots and lots of sketchbooks that I keep a lot of my drawings in. I draw every day, just little ideas that I may want to use. I'm going to move my camera up a little bit so you can see me. There we go. I have stacks of sketchbooks. It doesn't matter what type of sketchbook you use. Some people like the small sketchbooks because it's not, you don't feel like you have to fill up as much space. Some people have bigger sketchbooks. Some sketchbooks come with a paper. This is a soft paper binding, and some sketchbooks come with a harder binding. You can even get sketchbooks that have gray paper, or brown paper. So, and gray paper, you get both of them. But this is a nice sketchbook with brown paper, and I use this a lot. Well, what if you don't have a sketchbook? So you can use any type of paper you want. You can use copy paper, printer paper, newspaper, brown wrapping paper. You can use your schoolwork. A lot of times I'll have students take an old page of maybe their math homework and do a drawing on top of that. You can use maps to draw on. You don't have to have specific drawing paper if that's not what you have. It's great to have drawing paper, but if you don't, that's okay too. Real drawing paper tends to be a little bit thicker. So here's some examples. It just has a thicker feel to it, a heavier feel to it. But you don't, like I said, you don't need that to start with. If you want to start developing more finer detailed drawings, then by all means, get a drawing pad with some heavier paper. Okay, so let's look at what we've got. Make sure you got all supplies, and then we'll start to draw. So the first thing that we're going to draw and practice, we are going to practice drawing what we call contour lines. So to start with our drawings, our first practice drawings, remember that this is practice. It's not a full-on drawing, okay? So we're going to learn how to look a little bit closely at the objects that we're going to be trying to draw. And the first thing I want you to do is draw a contour line of your hand. So what I'm going to do is you can use any pencil you want. I'm going to probably use a 2B, okay? And I want you to simply put your hand in front of you. And then you're going to look really hard at the outline of your hand. You're not going to trace your hand. You're going to draw the outline of your hand, okay? What we call in drawing is a contour drawing of your hand. Now remember, please be gentle to yourself. Don't worry about what this looks like. This is just practice. It's like warm-up for anything. It's like doing chords on an instrument or practicing your skiing. It doesn't really matter what this looks like. We're just practicing the art of seeing the lines around an object, okay? So start on one point. Try your hardest to move slowly. And really look at the direction that your fingers are going. How big are they compared to other parts of your hand? If you have a ring, you can do that too. I see that this finger is a little bit bigger, taller than the other one, longer. So move slowly. Please be gentle to yourself and don't worry about what this looks like. You're just looking, we're just getting warmed up. We're going to do this again. Oh, that one's shorter. Try to find the spaces and the shapes. All right, so you can see in my drawing, it's definitely not on my fingers are a little bit long, but that's okay. Let's try it again. We're just getting warmed up. And I'm going to use a little darker pencil so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to try 6B. This time I'm going to try drawing my hand from this direction. And I can draw right on top of the other one. Just finding a starting place. Being careful to look at where your hand shapes, where they connect to each other. Find that maybe on this drawing, you start to slow down a little bit and find the shapes. Or maybe not. Take your time. So remember, we're doing something called the contour drawing of our hands. Good. Okay. So now you can use the same piece of paper or you can use a new piece of paper. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So now what I want you to do is find an object around your house that you can use to do another contour drawing. And what I found, like for instance, I have a tape measure here and I have a clip, paper clip. It doesn't have to be anything very special. Just make sure that it's not furry or rough. Smooth things are easier to draw for now. So with clear lines. So pick an object, doesn't matter what you use, and we're going to start to learn to do contour drawing with our objects. Hi again. So now you've found an object and we're going to draw the object in 3 different ways using contour lines. I'm going to move my camera back down to my paper so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so first thing we're going to do is similar to our hands is we're going to draw the item you have simply by looking at the item and drawing the outside shape of the item, okay, with line, contour line. So you don't have to start in the middle. You can start anywhere you want. You can put the item down or you can hold it, doesn't matter. So then you're going to draw the outside. trying your best to slow down and look at the shape. All right, so everyone should be drawing right now with me. She found an interesting shape to draw. And if you don't like the shape that you've got or the item that you've got, it's perfectly okay to get up and find something else that might interest you more. Okay, so that's pretty much the outside of this shape. Now we're going to do something really interesting. We're going to call it continuous line drawing. So this is a contour line, okay? Now we're going to do continuous contour line. Continuous contour line drawing is, once you put your pencil down, you cannot pick it up. You can't go from here to try to figure things out. You got to put your pencil down and not move it, all right? So draw the same item in what we call continuous line drawing. And that might mean that maybe you go back over some of your lines. So here we go. I might have to go back. Yep, I'm going to have to go back and do the circle here because the circle I can't get from there. It's going to look a little bit different. I'm just going to reinforce this line a little bit better. And then I see it comes out. I haven't picked up my pencil yet. Now, before you pick your pencil up, make sure, is there anything else that you missed that you want to go back? Yes, I see something I missed. So I'm going to go back over and try to figure this out. There's another clip behind this one. And maybe I like to put this roundness here. So maybe I want to make this round. Okay. So you'll see one is contour and the second one is continuous contour. Contour, continuous contour. Now we're going to do something really fun called blind contour drawing. So you're going to take your object and you're only going to look at this. You're not going to look at your paper at all. Only look at your shape. So this one you have to trust yourself. If you feel like you can't trust yourself, you can get something else and put it on top of your hand so you can't see it. But sometimes people use a paper plate around this pencil. You can punch a hole in a paper plate, put it on top, and then you can't see, or a cup or something. But don't look at your pencil. So I'm going to hold this away so that I'm not tempted to look here. Hold it away from me, and here we go. How do you think this is going to turn out? It's probably going to be really different than your other ones. But by now, you've already made this shape a couple times. There we go. Look how different that looks when I'm only looking at the object. Let's do it again. That's fun. So I'm going to do the same thing. Hold it away from me. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Where do I want to start? Okay, here we go. This is really fun to do if you have a family member or a friend and you can do their portrait where you look only at their face and then draw them. So it looks kind of funny. That's what I've got so far. So totally different. All right. So remember, we did a contour drawing, which is looking at the object and drawing it as best we can, the outline. We did a continuous line drawing where we put our pencils down and didn't move, or didn't pick our pencils up, I should say. And then we did a blind contour drawing where we put our pencils down, but we didn't look at the paper. We only looked at the object. Now try doing a blind contour drawing, continuous line drawing. And that means you're not going to look at your paper. You're only going to look at your object, and you're not going to lift your pencil up. Okay, so this is number 4. So here's number 1. Here's number 2. Here's number 3. This is 3 also. And now number 4. Blind contour drawing, continuous. Here we go. Put your pencil down. Don't pick it up. I'm going to add a couple marks in there. And that's that. That's number 4. All right. So this is a really good way of slowing yourself down and really looking at the objects that you're going to be drawing. So we've looked at blind contour drawing, which is only looking at the object and not the paper. We've looked at continuous, or we've tried continuous line drawing, where we put your pencil down and you don't pick it up. And we've done regular contour drawing, where you're just looking at the object and your paper, and you can pick it up and move it around too. So that's 4 different ways that we were working with our lines, okay? So now what we're gonna do is we're going to find something that we wanna make a full-on drawing about, right? So now I'm gonna give you your first assignment. So your first assignment is called a contour rhythm drawing work. So the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to pick an object to draw. Again, I picked this. I like this. This is pretty interesting too. Tape measure. You want an object that has some interesting parts about it. Okay. So not only are you going to draw the shape of the object, but maybe you just draw some of the other things on it too. Like this one has this clip. It's got these buttons. It's got these things here. It's got an unusual kind of shape. Lots of stuff to draw on here, rather than, let's say, a piece of tape. No, got it a little more complex than that, okay? So that's your first step. Find something to draw. You're going to use a pencil, or you can use a pen. It doesn't matter. If you use a pencil first, then you might be able to go over it with pen, and I'll tell you why later. You're going to get a piece of paper, and the first thing I want you to do is to draw the object on your paper, all right? Just like we did. Continuous line, contour line. I don't want to see any value shading or any shading whatsoever, just lines, okay? Then you're going to redraw that object again and again and again on that one piece of paper. However, you're going to draw it in different sizes, different shapes. Some of them are going to be overlapping, and you're going to use the edges of your paper too. So you're going to draw that object, and some of the lines are going to be going off the paper, not just staying, all right? I would suggest that you not start in the middle, but maybe start on one of the sides. So let's look at some of my students' work too here. So this drawing is an interesting drawing. This was a drawing of a bottle of glue, and the student used mostly thin lines, I would say. But look at the different sizes. You'll see there's some little bottles here, some medium bottles. He drew the bottom of the bottle, so you don't have to draw just the same shape over and over. You can draw parts of the shape. Here's another interesting thing. Notice too how this is overlapping. So this bottle is on top of the other bottles. Notice also that they're going off the edges. Okay, let's turn this around. Yep, some of the bottles are going right off the edges. You don't see the whole item here. Some of them are very big. This bottom one here is quite large, and this little one fits nicely on top of it. Another thing you'll notice is that they're going in all different directions. This one's going that way, this one's going that way, this one's coming here, which makes my eye go all over the page. All right, let me show you another example. Here's another example. This was a key ring that one of my students drew, very, very busy one, but look at all of those shapes. So by the time she was done with this drawing, she really knew a lot about the object she was drawing. Mainly here, it's interesting because they're kind of, some are going off the edges, they're overlapping, some are quite large, and some are really small. Okay? So it makes me want to look all around this drawing, this simple line drawing, and how beautiful it's come. Here's another one. This is sunglasses. Now, what this student did is first draw their drawing. They chose glasses as their subject matter, their object. They drew it in pencil. Then they went over the pencil with some thick lines and thin lines, because drawings with different types of lines are more exciting. This is a great drawing, but it's all got the same thin line. What would this drawing look like if this student had put thick lines on there too? Makes it a lot more interesting to look at, all right? So you're going to think about the direction that you put your objects in, the sizes of your objects, the relationship by layering your objects on top of each other, making sure you run some of them off the page, okay? And then your thick and your thin lines, dark and light areas. I'll show you one more. This was some type of a clamp. And here again, the student could have done more, but interesting sizes. So we've got a really big one here. We've got a smaller ones. And look how they're layered on top of each other, okay? There's a nice relationship between this group that's going on here. This eyeglass one too has, you'll find that some are on top, some are on the bottom, okay? So that's gonna be your very first assignment, in line. So the first element of art that we're learning is line, and your first assignment is gonna be the contour rhythm drawing in line, which I just showed you examples of. All right, everyone? So remember, you're gonna need some pencils, some paper, and find a really interesting object to draw. All right, have fun. I look forward to seeing all your artwork. And remember that practicing drawing is the way you're gonna get better. And practicing looking at things is how you're gonna get better. By drawing one item over and over again in a contour line, your hand-eye coordination is gonna become stronger, and you're gonna be able to see shapes to draw them much better. And all our drawings, no matter how developed and well drawn they are, all start with a basic element of line.